Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. And not since the season opener, that game against Atlanta, have Adam and I have been able to sit here, do a podcast, and not only talk about a win, but a very convincing win. A win where you just dominate from start to finish. Doesn't even have a bad taste in your mouth like the Carolina win. It was a win, but it felt like a loss in some ways. This was total domination that we haven't seen for quite a while. The Eagles answered a decent number of questions, Adam. We're going to go through everything, the offense, the defense, put a bow on the game. But obviously, when you win 44-6, it's not like there's a whole lot to sit there and dissect. It was a blowout from kickoff till the time the clock hit zero. And about time, as they would say. This was finally the kind of dominant effort against a bad team that you were looking for.
A lot of interesting things happen, though, that actually we definitely need to talk about. There's some things that surprised us on offense, which we'll get to. But, my overview would be that for the first time in several weeks, both play callers, the head coach and the defense coordinator, took advantage of matchups which were clearly there, and they came out and dominated. They established what they were looking to establish. And kudos to them. They got a lot of criticism, and deservedly so, coming into this game, but they dominated and they played hard. I've said all along, despite how the team had struggled, they never quit on these coaches. They had not at all. The coaches need to do a better job of coaching. They did. They were prepared. The players played their ass off on Sunday. They just had a lot of energy too. Boy, did they come out. They came out pissed off, and they took it out on these poor Lions, who are now the only team in the National Football League without a win.
Right. So I'm glad you said that. You ended on how they don't have a win. We've been doing this job long enough to know that sometimes you can't please anybody. And I sense that there will be, because of how lopsided the game was, I sense that there will be a faction of people who are happy with the win, but say, God, the Lions are awful. Like, how much can I take from this win? And some of that's fair. But if we're being really fair, and we really accentuated this point on the pregame show with Greg Cosell and Jason Avant, the Lions at 0-7 were a team that fought very hard. They had played some tough teams, whether it was the Ravens, the Rams. I mean, the one thing you would say about the Lions is they're fighting every single week. They're trying their hardest. So just because they looked awful against the Eagles on Sunday, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, geez, that was such a crap team that the Eagles beat. I can't get too excited about it. I feel like there will people who will do that. They'll just kind of minimize it, and fine. It's your right to see it however you want it. But I'm going to be fair. If I said the Lions were fighting hard and they were a tough opponent, because in every week they seem to give you the best of what they got, and the Eagles go out there and dominate them, then I got to say congratulations to the Eagles. They did what some other teams who are better than them could not do, which is put the foot on the throat on them early, not let them come back, and just dominate them, especially in the trenches. So good for the Eagles in that regard.
Yeah. Look, this is before we get to the breakdown of both sides of the football. The one thing that these coaches have to understand, if they come in with a game plan like this against the Chargers, they'll have a chance to win. If they come out with the crap that they put together before this game, they're going to get blown out. I don't care how bad the Chargers played against the Patriots. Herbert was awful. He's been terrible against the Patriots. Jonathan Gannon needs to learn. You coach by what you think will work against that opponent. Justin Herbert struggled with disguise. Okay, he in the two games against the Patriots, he's never played so poorly. His stats, we'll have the numbers for you. We'll dissect those numbers when we break down the game for Friday. For that matchup against the Chargers in Philly, where the Eagles haven't won at home. But you can't just rest on your laurels here. The Lions are terrible. We know that. But you did come out with a good game plan, which you knew would work. You took advantage of the Lions have nothing on offense. They showed that, and you were aggressive. So Gannon cannot just sit back and play the safeties back in Camden again. You can't do that. Right. Offensively, Sirianni can't just say, you know what? Okay, the Chargers they came out with that game with two injuries at corner. Two other top three corners are hurt. They have a bad run defense. You can't start just throwing the ball 40 times. Come out trying to run a little bit. If you're going to come out passing more than run it, mix in the run, though. You got to mix in the run there. You just got to understand what wins in the National Football League. It's matchups, understand what talent you have, and using it accordingly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't expect. It's funny. By the way, we pick a different region of the country to talk about where the safeties are positioned every week. I think you just said in Camden.
Well, over the bridge,
so
over the
so
bridge.
Camden, we've said Canada, we've said Lake
Cherry
Tahoe
Hill,
when they were
Cherry
out
Hill.
in Vegas. So yeah, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. I don't expect the Eagles I don't think this was a cure-all victory. I don't expect them
Yeah.
to come home and per se beat the Chargers. I think the Chargers are a better team. But to your point, I feel like we've got to see the type of coaching and execution that at least gives you the mindset that at home the Eagles should have a chance. They should be competitive in this game, and it shouldn't be 30 to 10 by halftime or the end of the third quarter. If that's the case, and we're getting too far ahead, but if that's the case, then really this game against the Lions did mean nothing. But I hope it doesn't. I hope, like you said, that there was an awakening to the coaching staff, and we'll get into it. There were some changes on both sides
Okay.
of the ball that we thought were significant. And you hope that it's significant, not just because it helped beat the Lions, but that for the long term that you saw something sustainable. So we'll
Yep. I just want to add this. I don't know if I trust this coaching staff yet, because this is based on what you're just saying.
Yeah.
I don't trust them yet. This is the game they should have dominated based on personnel matchups. Okay. They had distinct advantages. The Lions they have the worst group of receivers in the National Football League. They have the worst group of corners by far in the National Football League. One of the kids who had been starting was out with a neck injury. They had distinct advantages. Take advantage of, and they did. The coaches did a great job. I'm not taking anything away from them, but they did their job. They can't just say, okay, now Gannon can't just go back to what the crap he was doing before, playing the safeties too deep, not being aggressive. Offensively, they had some advantages with their line. And boy, not only did Dan Campbell say in his post-game press conference on Sunday, the players did. The Eagles' offensive line destroyed their D-line and blew them off the ball. And, man, you don't hear people saying that on the opponents. I was surprised by that. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
They were giving it up. They gave respect to the Eagles, and good for the Eagles coaches and players to get the job done.
Absolutely. All right. I learned a painful lesson this weekend that I should have always known. It has nothing to do with the Eagles, but the NFL. And that's don't forget who teams really are. And I'm talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to call them the Bungles.
Oh,
I was still alive in my survivor pool, and I picked the Bengals to be. And I never usually pick road teams, so this is shame on me.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, Mike White starting. It's the Jets. The Bengals are hot. There was no way in my mind they could blow it. And not only did they not win, but I don't know if you saw what happened, but they took the lead in the fourth quarter, and all they got to do is get a couple of first downs and run on the clock, and somehow Burrow throws an interception so deep in his own territory that he just opened up the door for the Jets. I mean, and the Bungles are still the Bungles, man.
They are that. Well, they're obviously much better, but yeah, they blew that game. They're up 17-7. Mike White throws 2 picks.
Right.
And I'm thinking, man, the poor Jets, right? It's just like when you see these. Isn't it interesting? There are a lot of bottom feeder teams. You mentioned the Jets. The Lions are obviously the NFL's worst with no wins. So they choked a couple games where they clearly should have been better, and they gave some games away. Right. I think using your term you've used many times over our 4 years of doing the show, teams usually regress to the mean of really who they are.
Yes.
And this Eagles team, I don't know who the hell they are because they come out so well. Do you want to get started on offense?
Yeah. Actually, before we get into the offense, sure. I hope everybody got the advantage over their sports book like we told them to using BetQL, and they made their smart bets. Remember, BetQL has that best bets computer model that scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you the best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and the reason why you should place the bet. Their model covers spreads, over-unders, player props, everything. If you don't want to use the model, you like to do the research, they got all the tools that you need from sharp data, line movement, team summaries, and lineup and injury breaking news, even a leaderboard to track your success. So go to the App Store or Google Play Store now, download BetQL, or go to try.betql.co/ITB. Get started now. Enter the discount code ITB at payment checkout for 25% off their subscription offerings. And, of course, check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this football season using BetQL. All right, yeah, let's get into the offense because I'm sure we're on the same page with this, and we didn't talk beforehand. But the biggest surprise is we thought that I picked the dude to be the player of the game on our pregame show was Kenneth Gainwell. I thought he was going to be the main. I called him the coach's pet, the teacher's pet, because I figured with Miles Sanders out, Gainwell was going to have 30 touches. But no, they went with a running game of Boston Scott and Jordan Howard. That was surprising, but effective.
Yeah. It was. What is interesting? So they had been a two-man backfield up for the first 7 games. They had been a two-man backfield. Scott did not get a touch from scrimmage till the 7th game, and he only played because Sanders got hurt. He had only been playing special teams. So I thought it would be Scott and Gainwell. Well, Scott started. I thought he'd get at least 10 carries in the game. He got 12, and then he could have had 20, but because they were up so big, they pulled him out, put Gainwell in. Jordan Howard looked good, man. He looked just like he did in training camp.
Yep.
Which is so surprising he didn't make the team. But okay, I think if these coaches had their druthers, maybe it would just be a Scott Gainwell situation. But here's why I think. Jonathan Vilma said during he was the color analyst during the game. John said that who was the play-by-play? Kenny Albert, right? Yeah, Kenny Albert.
Yeah.
John Vilma said that basically Sirianni told him they were going to come out and run the football. And then Sirianni, in his post-game press conference, I love when he does this. He's been doing this lately, and I don't know. And obviously, no one's telling him not to do it. And I think it's great that he does this. He's like, hey, guys, I'm just going to give you a little inside scoop. Here was our game plan. We're going to come out. We were going to run the ball 5 times and 3 times or something like that. He gave a number out what they were going to do in the first series, and they did it. And because they thought they can do it. And they imposed their will. And as I said earlier, even the Lions said it. They just blow them off the football. And they were physically dominant. The Eagles used their stupendous size against the Lions. And it was good to see. I'm not a run game truther, but I like it. They were decisive. Sirianni came with a game plan, and he stuck with it because he thought he couldn't do it. And even Hurts, that not every run was designed, but he ran the ball. Boy, he had this one run. Boy, it was like, if you're watching this on YouTube, he just shook those guys out of their shorts, man. It was a pretty cool run.
Yeah.
So I was impressed by the run game.
Yeah, I mean, were you surprised that it was effective, or surprised that they just actually used it? I'm not surprised that these guys
stayed with it. Well. Stayed with it.
Yeah, that they stayed with it. I agree with you. And you did see some under center still, so I was glad to see that carry over. And I think you phrased it best in the first part about not trusting the coaches. Like, I don't know that. I expect them to infuse this much amount of running against the Chargers next week, but I hope that they do at least,
by the way. Very bad.
I hope that they do have an honest run offense. And even though we're not run game truthers, I do think that certain offenses need to rely on the running game more than what the NFL averages, because they just don't have electrifying passing games, or they have quarterbacks who are not known for being dynamic quarterbacks. And I think that one example is the Titans. They rely a lot on Derrick Henry. Now they're starting to open it up a little bit because they were going to kill Derrick Henry with how many times he was touching the ball.
He got hurt Sunday.
And Ty Tannehill's got some good weapons, and he can play a little bit, but they do need to rely on him. And I think the Eagles, as they're currently constructed, do need to run the ball a little bit more than league average, because their passing game is a developmental passing game with a first-year quarterback and young wide receiver. So I don't think for this team to run the ball more than what we normally expect to see is a bad thing. And I don't think you and I will be like, oh, they're running too much if they dedicate a little bit more to running.
It worked.
I think for this team, it needs it. And by the way, when
Jalen Hurts needs it.
When they run well, not only does Jalen Hurts have a little bit more of a balanced offense, but he runs the ball well when the team is running the ball well, because then you get them looking at the run, and he can use those outside keepers, those read option plays where he picks up a lot of yards. And I know he had a decent amount of rushing yards. He had 71 rushing yards in this game. So I think that an honest run game helps his part of the running game out as well. And that was good to see. And by the way, it's really unfortunate. And this, I thought, if the Eagles lost, you would file this under the category of another reason why they can't have nice things, right? Yeah. Jalen Reagor, they used him 3 times as a runner, and it worked all 3 times until, of course, he hurt his ankle. It's my understanding it's not that bad. I mean, I'm not 100% sure he's going to be able to play against the Chargers.
Mhm.
But it's not something that, as far as I know, is so severe. It's going to be like Miles Sanders, and
Good.
Unless something
Good.
changes, you never know. Sometimes they take a look at the X-ray and things are a little bit worse. I don't know if there's been any reports of an MRI, but I'm just telling you what I've been told. So.
All right. No, I loved it. I love the inside handoff, end around. It just again, you got to give it up to Sirianni and his staff. They called a great game. They had it going on. I thought it was actually better. I know the passing numbers were paltry, and really Hurts didn't throw the ball particularly well when he threw it. He only threw the ball 14 times. But
yeah,
I'll tell you what, and I said in the pregame, it was the reason why I had Goddard. The Lions don't give up much production to the tight end because they give it up to the receivers. But Goddard is an absolute beast. He just is so physically dominant.
Yep.
I still am going to go with. I know it'll never happen because these coaches Sirianni's still trying to figure it out as a play caller. Mm-hmm. Every game, I don't care who the hell they're playing, you should never get less than 8 pass targets. He had 7 in this game. They only threw it 14 times.
Right.
He caught 6. He is a man. And I love it. Seam passes down the right rail, wherever it is. He was all over. And if they would have had to throw the ball, he would have had 20 catches. They could not handle him Sunday. He looked great.
Yeah, and now Jalen Reagor went out early, so it's a little bit skewed, but only 4 catches by Eagles wide receivers. That's pretty incredible because we had noted in the pregame show that the Lions give up more yards to outside wide receivers than any team in the league by far, 105 yards a game, and the Eagles beat the crap out of them, and they didn't even have to throw it to an outside receiver, but that's how good the running game really was for them, and of course Dallas Goedert was for them. So the one thing stuck out in my mind, and I don't say this to be cynical. I think you have to reasonably wonder about what I'm about to say, knowing what we know about the owner, the GM, the philosophy of the franchise. They routed a team 44-6. The quarterback only threw the ball 14 times, right? Do you wonder at all if Jeffrey Lurie is kind of on the flight back home thinking, we just this is not something I really love, the fact that we had to run the ball all over a team just to get a functional offense. I don't know.
Well, I would hope that he'd be smarter than that.
I would hope so too.
It was unbelievable dominance. He should be happy. This is a game that took on a life of its own. Mm-hmm. The coaches did the right thing. I was very impressed with the way that Sirianni called the game. They were also very prepared. I understand this coaching staff has had their ups and downs. There's no question about it. They've had their struggles. They're a rookie staff. They're growing pains. We and folks have said anyone says we've taken easy on them, obviously he's never listened before. We've buried them. Sometimes I'm like, God, I was really rough on these coaches, but that's our job. Call it like you see it per game. We call it by an individual game, right?
Right.
They had it going on. We'll get to the defense in a couple minutes here, but Sirianni and his staff were totally prepared. Their zone runs were good. This has not been a great zone running team when they've called zone runs. They've not been great.
Right.
I remember a friend of mine with another team who's got Eagles advance. He just struggled seeing their inside zone game because it's not a natural run game because they played almost all out of shotgun.
Yeah, and Trey Thomas, by the way, was really good about that on Inside Burst TV.
Oh, yeah. Why
they don't change the play to the right zone that they should be running to. Yeah.
Yeah. We did it. That was dropped last Friday. You have to hear because it's good for the rest of the season. Trey was giving an overview of everything he's seen. For a guy who's coaching the IMG Academy, it's like he knows everything about the Eagles. So he must be talking. He's like knew everything.
He's watching the tape. He's
grinding. I know he's watching everything. No, he had it called right.
Yep.
And because he's an offensive line coach, he calls it like he sees it. He detailed the Eagles' run game and the lack of one so far.
Right. He felt that they were running too much to the 3 technique side instead of the other defensive tackle and not changing and that got into a discussion about, well, does Jalen Hurts have the ability to notice that before the snap and then and he calls it black over where you audible and go to the other side and that's something that doesn't appear that he has. They were just kind of running the plays that were for him, but there's no denying that however they ran their schemes against the Lions, it was working, and it should have because for the first time in a while, Adam, we saw the offensive line assert itself physically, dominantly, move guys off the ball, create wide open lanes, and I'm sure those guys will never say it publicly, but I'm sure that those guys were just happy to be moving forward and just pass it after pass it all the time. Yeah.
Think about it. They had 3 running backs get over 10 carries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They ran the ball 46 times. Are you serious?
Yeah, even if you take out Jalen Hurts' 7, that's still 39 by running backs. So that's still pretty impressive. Yeah. For 236 yards. That's amazing.
And it felt like they could have run for 400. It was one of these things like, is Detroit ever going to compete in this game? The Eagles they took their will out. There's no question. And Dan Campbell was pissed. I watched the first 5 minutes of his presser. He was not happy. I got to give him credit. Just before we get to the defense here, the coaches had it going on, much like the Atlanta game, but I think it was actually better called,
right?
Because they had a basis of what they had done the previous 7 games to learn from the mistakes that they made, and they designed their run game was terrific. They had such space. I cannot wait to find out from our sources around the league who watch Eagles tape what the hell it looked like. Because it looked like from the TV copy that boy, they had a lot of room that was created by them.
No doubt about it. I got beef with Dan Campbell, and I'm going to bring that up in a minute. First, I want to tell everyone to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB. Bet just $5 on any NBA team to win its game, and you win $200 in free bets. So that team wins, you win with promo code ITB this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Right before halftime, you're already down in the game. All right. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Exactly. You texted me when I was going to say something funny about it. Go ahead.
You're down 17-0. You really need some points. You're on the Eagles side of the field. It's 4th and 1, but there's still about
a half yard, dude. It's like
left. Yeah, you're the 4th inches.
4 inches.
Right? All right. To me, there's 2 options. Either are good and they're obvious. And for some reason, Campbell chooses option 3. But option 1 is you just take the points there. That's the last play of the half. You take the 3 points, you go in 17-3, and you think I'm only down 2 touchdowns. The option 2 is you got over 15 seconds left. You can, on inches, you can sneak it, pick up the first down, and they have 1 timeout left. So you call timeout as soon as you sneak it, gives yourself, 10 seconds, take 1 shot at the end zone. If not, you kick the field goal, all right? Option 3 he takes is let's run a spread here, empty backfield, and try to have Jared Goff make a play down the field or a passing play. What? He's already struggling in the game. You're already having trouble protecting. Like, what point were you trying to prove there? I don't understand the philosophy, the mentality. That's something that I feel like we would expect from Sirianni for the first 5 or 6 weeks. That was just completely asinine to me.
Yeah, something, and the Eagles do this also. They're not most. Some teams do this. It'll be 3rd or 4th and inches. No, typically 4th and inches. They'll go shotgun. Why would you go shotgun? I don't understand. I don't understand. You to me, it's a disadvantage. I'd love to know what the analytics are on it.
Right.
But to me, you sneak the damn thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I would do. Goff is was Goff 6'4", 6'3", 6'4"?
I mean, my God, he could be my size and he could have got it was 4th and inches,
Right.
You got a nice left side of your offensive line, just tuck the ball and fall forward. That was just either overthinking it or not thinking it. I can't figure out which one's which on that one. I'm a little surprised with the veteran staff there with Deuce and Campbell. I know Campbell's first-year head coach, but I mean, he's been in the league for quite a while. He comes from the Bill Parcells schools of let's just line it up and dominate you in the trenches. I mean, you could have given me a bunch of different options and guessed, like, say, what do you think they're going to do?
A, B,
and the
C,
last
D, E.
thing I would have said would be empty backfield.
Either, yeah. He took F, yes. That doesn't sound for anything good,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Eagles were thrilled to see that. So, yeah, they make the stop, and that's good. And it was a good look. It was a good, really good front 4 performance from the Eagles. We saw Josh Sweat have 2 sacks. We saw,
defense.
I think we saw some of that stunting, that that athletic movement up front that, I don't know. It feels like Jonathan Gannon's willing to pull that out against the Panthers and the teams with the bad offensive lines, but he doesn't want to do that stuff against the better, more refined passing teams, which surprises me because that's supposed to be I think a weapon that the Eagles defense has, the ability to move around with that front and vacate some gaps but overload others.
All right, so here's the things that we need to point out. Teron Jackson, I don't know how many snaps he had. I saw him early in the game, which is interesting. What I think they're doing now, we had a nugget in our pregame show, which turned out to be correct, that either Wilson would be inactive, which he was, or he played very little, and so they had him inactive. do believe they're going to mix in these younger players. So Teron Jackson, 75, because I'm like, I at this point I'm starting to know the numbers by heart. I generally remember numbers. That's how I learn players. So 75. Oh, that's Teron Jackson. Oh, he's in here in the first quarter. Interesting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not Vinny Curry anymore.
Right, exactly. Right. Curry was. Right. So Teron Jackson, a rookie, so he got in there early. Sweat was incredible. He's so good. Cosell, Greg did a great job of describing. And by the way, he didn't try to be critical. He's just going by the tape. He doesn't agree with the way Sweat's being used. I was so glad he said that
because we don't need
staying for a week
right.
now.
Absolutely. So Teron Jackson did play. Who's I'm trying to think whose reps he might did. How much did Kerrigan get out there?
I didn't see Kerrigan at all. Not that I've seen him in 2 months, but I've seen him at all.
I wonder if that's foreboding at all. I wonder if
Kerrigan had a couple. He had a couple hurries. He's credited for a couple hurries.
Oh, okay.
Or hits, whatever, quarterback hits.
Right.
But I just feel like when you know you're not going to go anywhere, the Eagles aren't making the playoffs. So even if they hit my number 7 to 8 wins, they're not getting in. But the good thing is you got these young players. You could take a look at them. They don't have to play 50% of the snaps. Just mix them in. The other thing we heard was that 57 Edwards is going to be a full-time starter. He looked really good. He was active. I got to find out what the tape was.
Yeah,
he looked like he was all over it. He had a great game. This might have been his best game as an Eagle. I got to see what the tape looked like. But he had 13 combined tackles, 2 tackles for loss, quarterback hit, was everywhere. You know, it's funny because I don't know how much this coaching staff embraced him when he came in, because we had heard some stuff about who they liked and whatever. But, man, he's a good football player. He's really smart. You had the nugget like a year ago that he seemed to be doing better in pass coverage. He lost some weight.
Yeah.
He looks good, man. He looks like he's a player.
Well, this is why I said, I think I said it not last week, but 2 weeks ago, that they need to stop rotating 5 or 6 guys. They need to stop playing Eric Wilson, which they did. Yeah. So they must be listening to me. No, I'm just kidding. But I felt and still feel that their best combination is playing Singleton and Edwards. I said that a week or 2 ago. I said play Singleton and Edwards, and then when you're in base, you need that third linebacker, bring in Avery. Clearly, they want to evaluate and get better looks and use the athleticism that Davion Taylor possesses. Okay, they were able to masquerade his deficiencies against the Lions. They're in a mode between, are we really just trying to win games with a guy that may not be on the roster next year in Singleton, or are we trying to develop a player like Taylor who is going to be on the team or has a chance to be on the team? So I get it. It's difficult. I think the 2 I gave you is the better winning combination, but they're going with let's try to win and evaluate at the same time. Fine. That's fine with me. You and I don't think this team is a playoff team to begin with. So if you want to evaluate players, that's great too. And we'll see if this kind of game where Davion Taylor was able to get a lot of snaps and play, but not get exposed, will help him next week, right? When you know that the Chargers and Herbert and all, they're going to be targeting him the same way that the Buccaneers and the Raiders did. But that's fine. But I will say I'm just happy in general to see less kind of grab bag linebacker rotations and more of these are our linebackers now. We're playing Singleton. We're playing Taylor. We're playing Edwards, and we're playing Avery, and then Singleton will get in there also in his role. And that's
came in Nick. He
came in dime. I was very confused.
He came in pass situations. Which is really not a strong suit. I don't know. I don't know these coaches, so I'm not sure why they would do that. His strength is, I know there were some games there were plenty of times where he played every snap in games last year, but whatever. So
remember the opponent here. I think that probably
right, exactly. They were tested. Yeah. Great point. The Lions are terrible. I thought we said this very well with all 4 of us in the pregame show. Their receivers are all 4s and 5s. They have to be 1s and 2s.
Mm-hmm.
The Benson kid, 17. I was like, oh man, I'm shocked that he's out there. I forgot that they don't have anybody else. Khalif Raymond's been a great story as a guy that's been bounced around as an under to team to team to team. Yep. He's having a start. That's not who you want out there. He's a small guy. He's like a 5th receiver. He's having a start. Sweat annihilated that Nelson kid, the undrafted free agent from a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and to check out, good job by Andrew to write about that matchup on his piece on the website.
Yeah, definitely.
Eagles, they just had it going on. They just dominated matchups, and by alignment, they had him. Sweat was aligned correctly. He got up there. It was an annihilation. Boy, their D line. This is they went back to really bringing the energy too.
No doubt about it. And do you remember when I said a couple of weeks ago that I think for the Eagles, their best recipe for success is not to fall behind, because I don't think that they're going to be a team that's good at playing, from behind, because of
Yeah.
how their defense is and how easy it is to run on them. Well, clearly, not only did they do a good job of stopping DeAndre Swift. I mean, he only had 27 yards on 12 carries.
Crushed them.
The bigger number is not the 27, it's the 12. He only had 12 carries. When you're up by 17 points in the second quarter, then 24 in the third, and then 31, then a guy like DeAndre Swift is going to become irrelevant, because what are you going to do? Start establishing the run when you're down by 3 touchdowns?
Yeah.
No.
Well,
So
right.
so
Plus
that's why I think
Jamal Williams didn't play, which was big.
that hurt them. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's an excellent pass protector, and that was their 1-2 punch. Just going on what you were talking about Swift, so that hurt him.
Right.
I mean, I'm like, when this Igwe Buike kid came in, I'm like, I was like, wait a minute. The last guy I know was a kicker from the '80s for the Bucks, Donald Igwe Buike.
Yeah, but wasn't this kid an Eagle? Wasn't this kid formerly an Eagle? Godwin Ikwebuike?
Oh, that kid. Was that the kid?
I thought it was.
Yeah.
Unless I'm wrong.
Well, the funny thing was, I couldn't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought he was a safety with the Eagles. Did they turn him into?
That's what I mean. I thought he played defense. I was like, wait a minute, what is this guy in there for? Like, well, yeah, Godwin Igwe Buike. You're right. Good call by he was a safety with the Eagles. Right, great call by you. Because what happens? They got him from the Niners, and I was like, oh, he's a smart kid. He went to Northwestern, and I'm like, why the hell is he playing running back? What the hell? Jamar Jefferson's the kid that Cosell and I liked. Because I knew about him, and Greg gave me a little bit of intel on his tape study, because we thought he might have to play today if Jamal Williams didn't play. Right. What the hell is he getting carries for? What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. He was he's been on so many different teams. I think he
Tampa,
was Niners, Buccaneers. Yeah.
Eagles, Jets.
What college did he go to? He went to
Northwestern.
You said that. And what position did he play there?
A safety. He was a safety.
So he was a safety at Northwestern. Okay, and then somehow somebody made him into a running back. You know who also started off as a corner? No, he didn't. But he was looked at as a corner and a running back. That was Raheem Mostert. Remember, the Eagles had him as a running back. And I remember having a conversation with Ryan Grigson, because the Colts were in town to play a preseason game, and we were talking about Mostert, and he goes, "You know what? We actually liked him as a cornerback." So they were,
okay.
Mostert was almost a cornerback if the Colts had gotten their hands on him.
Here's the story on Igwe Buike. He played running back in
correctly, by the way.
What's that?
That you have to be butchering that name.
Igwe Buike, I thought it was, but I just, again, that Buccaneers kicker, for those of us over 50 might remember him, or the early 90s. He was number one, the kicker for the Bucs. I'm sure, without looking it up, I just remember seeing that guy in front of me. But Godwin, I'll just go by his first name, was a running back in high school. I don't think he played there since then. Whatever the case may be, I can't believe we're talking about this, but nevertheless, this just, so Gannon moved the safeties up, as we kept asking him to do.
Yes, cover one.
Said,
yep.
What's that?
Saw some one safety looks too. I mean, only one deep. Yep.
Yeah. They played two. They moved the two safeties up sometimes. They played single high, man underneath a little bit. They mixed it up. Thank God, because this has been an abomination the way they've been playing their secondary, and their secondary played well. It was a good use of personnel. This is a whole coaching win here. I can't grade special teams from TV, but I think we saw enough to tell that the coaches had it going, and good job by Gannon.
Yeah, a total team win. All right, we'll put a bow on this in a second. I want to direct everybody to our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. We'll pause real quick for a word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you stop in at Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You'll get the best deal. So the big question coming out of this game is how much of this was sustainable? How much did you see on Sunday that you think will be carried over till next week? I think that those are really the biggest questions. You know, how much of this was really intended just to beat a Lions team that was that's not good and also had some really bad injuries. I mean, they were really missing a lot of key players. And how much of this can we expect next week against the Chargers? I don't know.
It's funny. So I do this Fox Sports radio hit on Sunday, and the guy who does the hosting watched our show. He had mentioned, he said, we did a great job of listing all the injuries. Either I didn't see our video of it, but apparently whatever you and I read or we described.
Yeah.
Dan Byer from Fox Sports Radio he goes, man, I had no idea how bad their injury situation was until you guys outlined it. I'm like, yeah. It was terrible. You felt so bad for Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, especially on the offensive line.
Yeah. They got two starters out, the left tackles out. So Penny Sewell didn't play well Sunday, but Josh Sweat gave him problems. I'm not saying this is his best game as an Eagle. It's certainly one of them. They had 6 sacks in the game. They just brought it. Ridgeway got in there. Son Ridgeway played early in the game. I thought that was interesting. Before we get out of here, some interesting rotations.
Yes.
As you said, I wonder, because they're not playing Alliance this week. They're playing the Chargers. We're reeling a little bit. 2 really bad losses in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. They got smoked in Baltimore after an emotional win at home, high-scoring game in the NFL this season against the Browns. Right. And then they got handled by the Patriots. This is 2 years in a row. They've lost at home at SoFi to the Patriots, one with no fans, one with fans. So how much there's carryover if you coach, if you look and say, okay, Edwards played really well, right? Sweaty's a really terrific football player. We got to use him better. We shut down the run game. I get it. Jamal Williams didn't play. He was their grinder. Swift is the explosive guy. We shut everything down. Let's take these guys, use them the right way, and we'll give us a chance. You outlined this 20 minutes ago. If they use the guys the right way, they're going to have a chance. If they start throwing everything away that they learn, they're going to get smoked again.
Right. So the biggest takeaway for defense, right, is that they played safeties a little bit closer to scrimmage. They showed some cover 1 looks, and also they blitzed more so than normal. Yeah. I don't know that I think the defensive line alignment was still pretty much the same. We'll have to go and get the tape review. I don't know if they changed anything up there. So that part of it, like the pass rush, the linemen getting Williams, the field, to me, that felt more opponent dictated than say scheme dictated, because I don't think they changed anything up. The same stuff that they were upset about a week ago, I don't know that changed this week other than the 5 guys that were trying to block them.
Right. I would just say this to add to what you just said. They disguised because they knew Goff gets happy feet, right? Darnold, Goff, you could go through the quarterbacks who struggle when you disguise, when you get pressure up the middle. Goff, as I said in the pregame, is a heavily programmed quarterback. If that computer chip is damaged, he struggles.
I like that.
He's got to play a certain way. If you take him out of it, he's got no chance.
Yeah.
He's been struggling mightily lately. He got off to a good start this season for him with very little help.
Yep.
He's not been the same quarterback that got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Of course, Sean McVay was coaching him, and they had incredible talent. I understand he's not playing with a lot of talent around him. That's totally true. It's gotten worse and worse and worse, and their front office has got to get him help. But I thought Gannon coached a great game. He really did. I'm so happy because we had outlined. If you folks, you could see it anytime you want, 24 hours a day. Whether it's our Twitter feed, it's pinned to our Twitter. You could see it on Facebook or our YouTube page. Watch what we said, all 4 of us, Avant, Cosell, Geoff, and I. We outlined what they need to do to win this game. They did a lot of it, quite frankly. They did what we were begging them to do. Like we were praying, please, disguise, and they did.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's funny what you said about Goff, because not only, I mean, if you even look at this year, he had like 3 or 4 pretty good games at the start of the year, and his last 3 or 4 games have been awful. It's almost like you're with the computer. They got to unplug him, count to 30, and then plug him back in, like most computerized things. That if you do that, then all of a sudden you get the regenerized version. Yeah, they definitely have to reboot.
He's a reboot. Yeah. Right.
All right. The next Inside the Birds podcast will drop Wednesday morning, and that will be our tape review. And that will be very revealing as to if they did something differently with the defensive line.
Oh, they did.
scheme.
They had
And
to.
also with well, I'm curious also on the offensive side if the way they ran the ball was different. Did they use more inside zone? Did they run more power? Did they run they pull somebody? They run to a different side. So really, really interesting to look into that. I mean, what else will we have to look into? Because there wasn't much of a passing game to really dissect. So
Hurts, I could slow it down from TV copy. It's like you were talking about in the spring where the coaches wanted to have his the way his wind up more compact. And Cosell talked about it on our pregame show this past Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to shorten up. The ball takes a nosedive over the top throwers. This is a problem. It can be corrected. It just takes time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, there are questions whether he'll be the quarterback next year. So, but hey, they won the game. They have to be better with their passing game. They're not going to get away with score with. I just cannot imagine that they're going to run the ball 30 times. They ran it 40 some odd times, but even heck, if they run it over 20 times with the running backs, that would be a good sign. That means they're in the game at least. So we'll see what they do. We'll see what their approach is, and we'll go from there.
All right, Q&A with Quentin, Michael, and Jason Avant will be out Thursday, 6 a.m.
It won't have to be an hour and a half. It won't be an hour and a half this time.
Probably won't be, but it will be chock full of good stuff.
Yeah.
Please make sure you're checking out InsideTheBirds.com. Andrew DeCecco's coverage from the game. We'll have stuff writing. Adam's Power Rankings will come out on Tuesday, and I'm sure there'll be what's that?
Who do I have at one? The Packers, I guess. They beat the Cardinals. I'm not a Packers.
Well, I don't know. You've been your power rankings are. I feel like you're always taking a subtle jab at the Packers defense every week. You're like, yeah, they won.
Not lying.
Yeah, they won.
I don't.
Yeah, they won. But
See, I knocked the Bengals all season, right? That I don't want to call them a fraud, but I'm like they're not as good as their record. But I got to give it up to them. I moved them up pretty significantly.
All right.
They blow out the Ravens in Baltimore, and then they lay in. I mean, you talked about it minutes ago. I mean, how do you lose to Mike White? It's not he should be. There are a lot of personnel people I know that don't speak very highly of Mike White. They can't believe he's in the NFL, and he was slinging. I couldn't believe it. I was like,
I didn't even know who he was.
I
gotta be honest with you. I didn't even know who he was. I was like, Mike White.
Mike White. He played it. He played it. Although I have to look it up. Cosell swears he played at Western Kentucky with Higbee.
Oh, sure.
I do believe Higbee was there before them, but I have to look it up to see if they were at the same time. But anyway, the Bengals made him a quarterback. What can I tell you?
Well, I don't know how you choose anybody else but the 7-1 Packers, who just on a short rest,
I have to.
No
they gotta be number one.
Wide receivers went and beat the Arizona Cardinals. There,
You're right.
That was a hell of a game. But
by the way, I
gotta
wait. Hang on, I gotta add this.
Of
all you know who won the game for the Packers, right? I'm sure you know.
Yeah, I of course, Rasul Douglas with the interception.
I mean, unbelievable. I'm like, you can't make it up. And it's so funny because Packers, he got off to a good start. I remember Matt Rule like blowing him up. Oh man, this is the kind of guy we need. 8 weeks later, they benched him. He's terrible, right?
Yeah.
And the Panthers had all sorts of problems at corner last year. Nobody was any good. Other Dante Jackson was hurt most of the season. Okay,
right.
They got rid of him. Nobody wants him. He gets no free agent offers. So the Packers are without their top 2 corners. He's been playing like 75 to 80% of their snaps because they don't have anyone else. He's been balling, man. It's just that he's been like that, though. As you know, he's been streaky.
Yeah.
But it's like you can't make it up. You just can't make it. Like, of all people, Rasul Douglas.
I did not have the Rasul Douglas interception for the number 1 ranked Green Bay Packers upsetting the previous number 1 Arizona Cardinals on my bingo card for 2021. I didn't have that one, man. I had a lot of stuff, but not that one.
Yeah,
no, good for
survive this group.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll talk to everybody Wednesday. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer Hunter Brody. You can check out his work on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads, and his website is broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.